Aloha, you're watching F5. We're here in San Francisco for RSA 2015. I'm Peter Silva, and I'm thrilled to have information security expert, author, TEDx speaker, fellow local boy, and not to mention the founder of WhiteHat Security, Jeremiah Grossman. How's that opening, Jeremiah?
That was pretty good. You sure that's me?
Yeah. Thanks for joining, by the way.
Thank you very much. It's always good to be here with you. It's like fourth year, something like that. Maybe longer, fifth?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So the theme this year at RSA is change.
Yep.
Challenge today's security thinking. And I'm wondering from your perspective, especially with some of the massive breaches over the last couple of years, retail, healthcare, have you seen a change in the way InfoSec practitioners think about security?
Well, every year we have massive breaches, so I can't say that's changing, but it's about time we did change our thinking, and I think the breaches are numerous. The everyday customer and business is kind of tired of it, and they're looking to us to change something because clearly what we're doing isn't working. So I think it's about time. It's probably long overdue. InfoSec, 20, 25 years, and the same problems keep coming up. And it's not like we don't know how to fix them. So there's something must change, and I don't think the answers are all that complicated.
Okay, and so what is that might be able to change? Back in the early days, the web was simple and static. It's not that way anymore. Applications are being delivered out of traditional data centers, cloud environments, just dispersed everywhere. So in that sort of environment, what actually does need to change, if anything, to protect these applications in a hybrid environment?
So it's a great question. So I think in application security, so before in information security, we had all these business critical systems. And to secure them, we said, well, let's make a perimeter, let's put a firewall around it and call it good. And the web came about and just bypassed all firewalls as if they weren't even there. Allow port 80 and 443 through, and we're good to go. And that kind of blew up everything. So then over the last couple of years, the world has figured out that what we need is less network security and more software security, application security. Applications must be able to protect themselves. And that's where we really get the web. So we have the web, we have mobile, we got apps, but it's really now the era of information security becomes application security, because that's where all the data is at the end of the day. Bad guys don't want to compromise boxes. They don't want to compromise machines and servers and desktops and laptops. They want your data. And whatever has the fastest, quickest, easiest access to the data, that's what they'll go after, and that's the apps.
Now you mentioned perimeter. And in the olden days, the perimeter used to be, as you mentioned, that firewall, and then recently, add-on identity, and that was the perimeter. But now, as you mentioned, the perimeter seems to be that the data, the applications, the content that's running the business. So is there even a perimeter, or how do you protect a perimeter these days?
And as we were talking about, when somebody says, where's the perimeter? That's probably like the toughest question. I can't even imagine where the perimeter is on the inside of these companies. How do you draw a line around something like the average company that's using Amazon and Salesforce and the HR systems? Where's the perimeter exactly? I don't even know if the concept applies anymore. I think from a CAO, CSO standpoint, it's where's my data, where are my business critical services, how are they accessed, how are the bad guys going to hack them, and then start to do around that. Perimeter, I don't know. It's like perimeter says to me, keep the good guys in and the bad guys out. And I don't know if that applies anymore.
Well, one of the things I've always talked about is that security isn't always necessarily about keeping the bad guys out. It's really allowing the right people to the right information at the right time. Now you have a session going on this afternoon, and it's No More Snake Oil, Why InfoSec Needs Security Guarantees. And so can you give us a little preview? What's the whole impetus behind that?
Sure, so it's all about that change philosophy. I didn't really equate it to change. It's just like a migration of security, the InfoSec, where I think things should go. So one of the things that hit me over the last couple of years was that we had all these breaches and the security vendors weren't culpable. They said they'll protect you, and they really didn't. The hacks still occurred. And then one thing, buying things, we buy clothing, cars, electronics, lawn care equipment. We buy all these things and they all come with a money-back guarantee, a return policy. They're all guaranteed. Except software and security. It's the funniest thing. We get away with this somehow as an industry, not guaranteeing the products that we sell. We make these outlandish claims as an industry. We will protect you against APT in 0 days and DLP and all these things, but no one wants to guarantee a thing. How we get away with this is beyond me. Now, one of the things you notice real quickly is that when you look at guarantees, they actually do exist, just not in InfoSec. We call it cybersecurity insurance. And it's the fastest growing space out there. It was something like 67% growth rate.
Wow.
So it tells you a couple of things. One is that companies are expecting to get hacked. I mean, they're very apathetic, but also very realistic about it. And billions of dollars are now starting to flow that direction and not through us. And I think there's a giant opportunity for us InfoSec vendors to start guaranteeing what we do and are aligning ourselves to that need for the business. So when companies like Sony or another electronics manufacturer want to guarantee their products, they have to know their data, their performance and their failure rates, their mean uptime, and all those sorts of things. As security vendors, we actually know how often do you find the ODAs? How often do you find the APTs? How often do we find cross-site scripting and SQL injection? And when we make these claims, if you know your data, back it up, guarantee it.
Right.
And I think customers will resonate with that because they get to tell the snake oil and those who believe from everybody else.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way the industry can go and must go to get the interests of the vendors in line with their customers.
And it really doesn't matter that, say, in the consumer world, it's actual physical products that we're interacting with. In this, security realm, a lot of times it's digital bits and bytes.
Yeah.
It kind of doesn't really matter, does it?
No, not so much. It's, you say you'll do X, guarantee that you'll do X, and interests aren't in alignment. So one of the fascinating things, so I was doing the research around this market and how to think about it. So of course I type into a search engine security guarantee. And what comes up was a bunch of online banks and stockbrokerage houses that are guaranteeing security. What they say is, if your account gets compromised and your account takeover, but your stock trading account, your bank account, we'll make you whole. We'll give you all your money back.
Sure.
But what's interesting about that is, so they know their failure rates, they know their fraud rates, so they can guarantee it based on security products and services that don't guarantee it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fascinating in a way. They're guaranteeing based upon the stuff that we don't.
Yep.
This can't continue. There must be a better way.
Yeah. Now, finally, I know you've been practicing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu for a number of years, and also after many of these InfoSec conferences, you and a number of information security practitioners go to your Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Smackdown.
Yep.
And so I was wondering, is there a connection between self-defense, the martial arts, that practice, and the practice of protecting data? Like, can you kind of use some of the same thought processes or techniques? Like, what's the connection between that?
I don't know. It might be a personality type, gluttons for punishment or something like that. The closest I come to it, there's a certain class of type with a security professional that really wants to know what works and what doesn't work. They really want to know. They don't get into the concepts. They want to be able to physically do it and physically you make it work.
Yeah.
And so hacking is kind of like that. So my background is hacking. Like you can or you can't. You can hack that system or you can't. And it's very honest, which I like. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, for those not familiar with it, it's ground fighting. Take your opponent to the ground, you nullify their weight, whether it's a bigger, stronger person, and then you can submit them, chokes, arm locks, things like that. So it's equalizing in that way. And it's also very, very honest. You can or you can't. The person tapped out, they cried uncle, or they didn't. And it's very, very honest. And you can take it very far. You can get very, very good. So I first started talking about it, 8-10 years ago in InfoSec, and the only reason I really started talking about it is because I was showing up to conferences with black eyes and scuffs on my face, and it was a little embarrassing. People are looking at me, what are you doing? Is some kind of fight club? I'm like, no, I just do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I started talking about it so I have at least an explanation. Yeah. And then all these people came out of the woodwork and said, wow, we train too, what are you learning? And then myself and Chris Hoff, that goes by Beaker on Twitter, said, why don't we just go take a class at local academies while we're on the road? He was like, cool, we'll call it the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Smackdown. And then we just started inviting people to come, and the community kind of grew. And,
cool.
And so yes, we hold it every RSA and every Black Hat. So at Black Hat, we got to train with Forrest Griffin, former UFC champ, so that was pretty awesome. So it's fun.
Cool, it's like this whole philosophy too. There's a philosophy behind what you do as a professional, and certainly a philosophy within martial arts.
Yeah, I kind of make jokes about it when I'm on stage, so I can keep up with the bad guys just fine. I can defend myself there, and if I get in close physical proximity with a bad guy, I'll be okay there.
Take him down.
So I'm well-rounded, so to speak.
And that's this Thursday night, right?
Thursday night, yeah. I'll save the location details. So if anybody wants to come to the next one or in Vegas, let me know, and we'll set it up. And you're invited as well, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate your time, Jeremiah.
My pleasure.
It's always a fascinating chat with you, and as we mentioned at the top, you've been big supporter and being a guest of mine over the years. It's
my pleasure.
I really appreciate it.
Sure.
So a lot more with security. I think I called you an illuminary at the top, or if I didn't, security illuminary and founder of WhiteHat Security, Jeremiah Grossman. Thanks a lot, Jeremiah.
We got to do the shotgun.
Yeah, and I'm Peter with F5 Networks. Thanks for watching.